It always started the same way. A lonely stretch of road, an empty field, something crossing the headlights that shouldn't be there. It was tall, too tall to be human, too bulky to be a dog. It walked upright, like it knew how. Eyes that glowed, fur that bristled, and claws that dragged across the hood of your car when it got too close. People said it followed them, watched them from the cornfields, that it didn't growl, it grinned. Some called it a werewolf. Others just called it the beast. The sighting started in the late 1980s near the town of Elkhorn, Wisconsin. Farm roads, cornfields, long stretches of nothing but gravel and trees. People reported something stalking the edges of their property, scratching at doors, chasing cars, disappearing before anyone could catch more than a glimpse. At first, it sounded like a ghost story, but the reports kept coming in, and the details stayed the same. Something was out there, and it wasn't just a story anymore. I'm your host, Robert Barber. Tonight, we're heading to the back roads of rural Wisconsin, where something has been lurking in the fields since the late 20th century. It walks on two legs, it leaves claw marks, and it's been seen enough times that people stop laughing when you talk about it. This is the story of the Beast of Bray Road, and this is State of the Unknown. Just outside the town of Elkhorn, Wisconsin, there's a stretch of rural blacktop that cuts through cornfields like a seam in a patchwork quilt. It's called Bray Road. If you didn't know its name, you'd drive right past it. No streetlights, no sidewalks, just rows of corn, cracked pavement, and trees that feel older than they should be. Elkhorn is the kind of town that feels like a time capsule. It's been around since the 1830s when settlers built farms, raised barns, and laid down roots that still hold tight. By the 1980s, it hadn't changed much. Two-lane highways, feed stores, a high school football team that plays under yellowing floodlights. It's the kind of town where the waitress at the diner knows your order before you sit down. The kind of town where people don't lock their doors until they do. It's picturesque in the daylight, red barns, white houses, a clock tower in the center of town square. But when the sun goes down, that's when it changes. The quiet starts to feel like something else, like stillness waiting to be broken. Bray Road runs just a few miles outside of Elkhorn. It looks like nothing. A forgotten country road flanked by cornfields and old fences that seem more decorative than useful. In the summer, the crops grow so tall they blot out the horizon. In winter, the land lies bare, and the wind rolls across it like it's searching for something. The trees stand guard, their branches bare and sharp, like sentinels. In the late 1980s, Bray Road earned a reputation, not because of what people saw, but because of what they couldn't explain. People started reporting things, scratch marks on their car doors, patches of fur caught on barbed wire, massive footprints crossing the road, red or yellow eyes in the distance set too high off the ground to belong to any known animal. Some said they hit something with their car, but when they got out, nothing was there. Others swore they saw something watching from the fields, and a few saw something up close. And that's when the story began to change from rumor to legend. The first wave of sightings came in the late 1980s and the early 1990s. These weren't ghost hunters. These weren't thrill seekers or hoaxers. These were regular people, mechanics, students, farmers, teachers, and they all described the same thing. It started with a teenager on Halloween night. She was driving home alone, playing music low, focused on the road ahead. Then came the thud, like she'd hit something. She pulled over and got out. That's when she saw it. A figure, standing upright, hairy, massive, 6 feet tall, maybe more. It had long arms, thick shoulders, and eyes that reflected the light from her car like mirrors. It charged. She barely made it back inside before it reached her. She locked the doors and hit the gas. As she drove off, it raked its claws across the back of her trunk. She told her family, and she told the police, and eventually, she told a local newspaper. That opened the floodgates. A farmer saw it crouching at the edge of the road, tearing into roadkill with what he called almost human hands. A school bus driver saw it bounding across a pasture on 2 legs. Its knees bent backwards, its arms pumping like a sprinter. A woman walking her dog saw it standing at the edge of a cornfield. It didn't move. It just watched her. And the descriptions began to overlap. It walked upright. It was tall, 6 to 7 feet. It was covered in dark fur, muscular like a wrestler or a bear, with eyes that glowed red or yellow when the headlights hit them. Some said it had a snout like a German shepherd. Others described a face that looked almost human, but wrong. Too long, too narrow, too sharp. One man said, "I saw it by the ditch sniffing something. When my headlights hit it, it stood up, taller than my hood, and it looked right at me, like it knew I was there." Another told reporters, "It moved with purpose. It didn't scurry like an animal. It walked like it was supposed to be on 2 legs." One woman, years later, said, "I don't care what people think. I know what I saw. And it wasn't a dog. It wasn't a bear. It was something else." By 1991, stories of a strange creature on Bray Road had spread through Elkhorn like wildfire. People whispered about it in grocery store aisles and passed stories across pews at church. Teenagers dared each other to drive the road at night, and parents told their kids to stay indoors after dark, not out of superstition, but out of caution. Most were too afraid to speak publicly. They didn't want to be laughed at. They didn't want to be labeled crazy. But one person, someone who didn't expect to become the gatekeeper of a legend, decided to listen. Linda Godfrey was a reporter for The Week, a small-town paper in Elkhorn. She was assigned what was supposed to be a light piece, a quirky human interest article about people claiming to see a werewolf in Wisconsin. But what she found was something else entirely. She started interviewing witnesses, normal, grounded, everyday people, people who weren't looking for attention, people who were still visibly shaken by what they'd seen. One man had tears in his eyes as he described the creature that followed him along the tree line. A woman shook as she drew the figure she saw by the side of the road. One teenager simply said, "I'm not trying to convince anyone. I just want to know what it was." Godfrey wrote her article, Tracking the Beast of Bray Road. It was published in December of 1991, and it exploded. Suddenly, Elkhorn wasn't just a quiet Midwestern town. It was ground zero for America's newest monster mystery. After the article hit newsstands, the story went national. TV crews came to town. Paranormal researchers set up camp near the cornfields. Locals gave interviews, some reluctantly, others anonymously. Everyone had a theory. Everyone had an opinion. Bray Road became a dare, a destination. People started driving it at night in hopes of seeing something. Kids would park their cars, kill the headlights, and wait in silence. But the fear was real, and the sightings didn't stop. Police got reports of something large in the fields. Farmers found livestock missing or mutilated. And more people came forward with encounters, some new, and some from years prior they had never told anyone about. Elkhorn was divided. Some dismissed the whole thing as a local legend gone viral. Others swore they'd seen the beast themselves. But no one could deny this. Something had changed. Once the stories went public, one question echoed louder than the rest. What is it? Because if dozens of people, maybe more, were seeing the same thing, then what exactly were they seeing? Over time, 4 dominant theories emerged. Theory 1, a cryptid. This is the simplest theory, and the one some people find the most plausible. The idea that the beast of Bray Road is a real living creature, a flesh and blood animal we haven't classified yet. Some say it's a type of unknown canine species, a relic population of dire wolves that somehow survived extinction. Others believe it could be a primate-canine hybrid, a branch of evolution we've never encountered. Supporters of this theory point to the consistency of the sightings, the upright posture, the height and size, the glowing eyes, and the way it disappears in the woods without a sound. To them, the beast isn't supernatural, it's not a ghost, it's not a spirit, it's an animal, a rare one, and one that's very good at staying hidden. And maybe it doesn't want to be found. Theory 2, mass hysteria. Then there's the psychological explanation. The beast isn't real, this theory says, at least not in the physical sense. It's a product of suggestion, of stories passed around until people begin to see what they expect to see. In this view, the Halloween sighting in 1989 was the spark. It got reported, it got repeated, and then it got believed. The human brain is a pattern-seeking machine. When it's dark, when we're tired, when we're afraid, we fill in the blanks. We connect the dots that aren't there. One person says they saw something. Another reads it in the paper. Now, suddenly, you're not just driving through the country, you're driving through a story, and your brain is waiting for the monster to appear. This theory explains the overlap in sightings, the repeated details, and the way the legend snowballed. But it doesn't explain why the earliest witnesses were so shaken, why they told their stories reluctantly, or why many of them had never even heard the others. Theory 3, a spiritual entity. This theory goes deeper, darker, older. What if the beast of Bray Road isn't a creature? What if it's a manifestation, something spiritual or even supernatural? Some believe the beast is a guardian. Others say it's a punishment, a shapeshifter, a being that can move between our world and another. In Native American traditions, especially the Navajo, there are stories of skinwalkers, witches who can take the form of animals. In Algonquin folklore, there's the Wendigo, a tall, gaunt creature with an insatiable hunger for human flesh. Both are warnings. Both live in the borderlands between the natural and the unnatural. European folklore also offers parallels. Werewolves, the cursed, the transformed. Men who surrender their humanity to take on the form of beasts, often as punishment for moral failure. Maybe Bray Road isn't just haunted by a creature. Maybe it's haunted by an idea, by the line between what we are and what we fear we could become. And finally, there's the strangest theory of all, that the beast isn't alive. That is, it's not even of this world. Some say it's interdimensional, a being that slips into our reality through thin places, rural, quiet, forgotten spots where the veil between worlds wears thin. Others believe it's a tulpa, a creature brought into existence through belief. The more people feared it, the more they saw it, and the more real it became. This theory blurs the lines between belief and reality, between myth and manifestation, and it asks a chilling question. If enough people believe in a monster, does it matter whether it was real to begin with? The Beast of Bray Road may be Wisconsin's mystery, but it's not alone. Across cultures, across continents, across centuries, people have told stories about creatures caught somewhere between man and animal, and no matter the language or time period, the descriptions feel eerily familiar. The most obvious comparison is the werewolf, a shapeshifter from European folklore cursed or infected to transform under the full moon. But long before werewolf became part of pop culture, ancient civilizations had their own versions of the beast. In Norse mythology, berserkers and Ulfhednar wore wolf skins into battle. They believed the spirit of the animal gave them supernatural strength, that in war they could become the wolf. In French rural legends, the loup-garou prowled the countryside. It was sometimes a punishment for sin. Other times, it was inherited through bloodline, and often, it was contagious. In German tales, especially around the Black Forest, men cursed to live as beasts were said to roam the woods. They couldn't be killed unless pierced with silver. They lived at the edges of towns, in shadows, on the margins of society. In all these legends, there are common themes. A creature that walks upright, a mix of human and animal traits, a connection to nature, instinct, and rage, and the fear that beneath the surface of civilization, something wild still lives in us. We haven't forgotten the wolf. We've just dressed it in human skin. Even closer to home, Native American tradition speaks of beings who blur the line between human and animal. In Navajo belief, there are stories of skinwalkers, witches who use dark magic to take on the form of animals. They wear pelts, they shapeshift. They're feared not just for what they are, but for what they represent: imbalance, power, corruption. In Ojibwe and Algonquin traditions, there's the Wendigo, a creature born from greed and hunger, a human who's been consumed by the desire to consume. It becomes something tall, gaunt, predatory, and no longer human at all. These beings are not just monsters, they're morality tales. They're warnings about what happens when you stray too far from community, from nature, from balance. And just like the beast of Bray Road, they tend to appear in remote places, places where the veil is thin and the rules feel different. What's striking is how universal this story is. In places that never shared language or culture, the same legend appears. A beast with intelligence, a creature that stalks the outskirts, a watcher in the woods, a symbol of fear, instinct, and transformation. So maybe the beast of Bray Road isn't new. Maybe it's just the latest mask worn by something ancient. Or maybe we've always needed these stories to explain the unexplainable, to give shape to the dark, to remind us that even in 1990s Wisconsin, the wild is never really that far away. Fast forward to today. More than 30 years have passed since that Halloween encounter, but the beast hasn't gone anywhere. You can buy Beast of Bray Road merchandise, shirts, mugs, bumper stickers. There's fan art, documentaries, and podcasts. Bray Road has become a tourist stop. People drive it at night with their phones ready. Some come hoping to see something, others come hoping they don't. The Walworth County Historical Society has hosted lectures on the beast. Local breweries have themed beers. There's even been talk of a low-budget horror movie filmed on location. Though born in the cornfields of Elkhorn, the beast has clawed its ways into broader pop culture. In the early 2000s, it got its own horror film, The Beast of Bray Road, a cult favorite that leaned into werewolf tropes with gore and grit. And in 2018, cryptid doc studio Small Town Monsters released The Bray Road Beast, a stylized documentary mixing first-person accounts, folklore, and eerie dramatizations. It brought the legend to a whole new audience. Linda Godfrey's work helped anchor the beast in modern myth. She appeared on shows like Monster Quest, and her books remain staples for monster hunters and folklore fans alike. And in the age of TikTok, cryptid memes, and monstercore fan art, the beast has taken on new life. You'll find Bray Road fan fiction, joke accounts run by the beast himself, and memes that playfully pair him with the Mothman in cryptid rom-com scenarios. It's folklore with a wink, but the heart of the legend remains. But for the people who live in Elkhorn, it's still not a joke. Some refuse to drive Bray Road after sunset. One lifetime resident said, "You bring it up in the diner, and the whole room goes quiet." Linda Godfrey, who passed away in 2022, remained a respected voice on the topic until the end. She never claimed the beast was real, but she did believe the witnesses were. That something had happened to them, that their fear was sincere. Even today, new sightings pop up every few years. People still send in reports. A dark figure in the corn, a howl too close, an outline on the side of the road, too big to be a coyote, too upright to be a bear. Whether terrifying or tongue-in-cheek, one thing is clear. The beast has moved beyond Bray Road. It's part of a wider cryptid pantheon now, forever watching from the edges of our stories. So, what is it? A cryptid? A spirit? A shared delusion? A legend given flesh? The truth is, we don't know. And maybe we're not supposed to. The Beast of Bray Road is a creature of the in-between, between man and animal, between day and night, between folklore and reality. It stands at the edge of cornfields, of headlights, of belief, and that's where stories like this thrive. Because this isn't just about a monster. It's about what we fear when we're alone. It's about what we imagine when the trees start to move. It's about that deep, ancient part of our brain that never stops scanning the tree line. Some legends scream, others whisper, and a few, well, they just watch. And if you're ever alone on Bray Road, if your headlights catch something upright in the distance, don't stop, don't get out, just keep driving. Because maybe it's just your imagination, and maybe it's not. This is State of the Unknown.